and gentlemen, welcome to episode 8 of the Unification Party podcast, reporting live from Unification Party headquarters. We have Adrian Blizzard here with us, who's going to talk to us tonight about media coverage of Pierre and Mr. Carney. And I'm going to talk later on about some critical minerals and try to get inside the madcap mind of Mr. Donald Trump. And take it away there, Adrian. Tell us what you got.
Thanks, Jay. Hi, everybody. So today I thought I'd do a fun exercise and take a look at some media outlets I don't often take a look at and kind of see what they're saying about Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney, to kind of see what the other side has to say. Like, you know, everybody always harps on getting stuck in an echo chamber, so it's nice to walk out of yours once in a while and take a look at what the other people have to say and see if there's people are getting a fair shake or maybe some people are getting a bit of a raw deal. The first article I saw today was from Global News, and I'm going to share it with everybody. It's about Mark Carney, and it'll be up here in just a second. Should be up there now. Carney campaigning in his Ottawa riding today, Poilievre in Winnipeg. So it's about both of them, but Carney gets the lead headline. So Liberal leader Mark Carney will be campaigning in Napanee today, the Ottawa riding where he's seeking election. And they kind of go on here today to talk about a little bit about both of them. Poilievre pledged to cut Canada First by enforcing. He further pledged to deliver tax fairness. So kind of the same old thing. They bring up Jagmeet here. He didn't get the headline. Jagmeet Singh made an appearance at a campaign event scheduled in Ottawa this morning, pledging a cap on grocery prices and a ban on corporations from buying up affordable homes. So Jagmeet's doing Jagmeet things. Now, this part here at the end is kind of what caught my interest, where they touch on Carney again. So Carney has said that he has been a resident of Ottawa area for almost 20 years, with the exception of when he lived overseas in London, UK, and that he knows Napanee well. He does not, however, live in the riding. Now, I know you can run for a riding you're not a member of, but it always kind of just doesn't sit right. Am I wrong?
No, I've always thought that stunk. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just kind of
But
weird.
You know what? Just before you go on though for a second, I know Jagmeet is doing his Jagmeet things, but I was actually thinking about that the other day independently, that there should be, or could there be I don't know, I hate the word ban because I like the world to be free, but a concept there where these big corporations can't buy entry-level homes. I'm not opposed to that conversation, but we can save that for another time, I suppose. But
yeah, that's a philosophical conversation. You can get real deep with that one.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not going to harp on it, but I did think it was interesting. I know we were just glossing by, but I'm not suggesting now that I will vote for him, and that's that. I have thought that before, for especially having some sons who are looking to access the market, that it's daunting. You're competing against
for sure.
Yeah,
I have a lot to say about that, and I'd love to talk about that. But yeah.
Yeah.
But
sorry, carry on.
No, but like I was going to give Global a little bit of credit. Like they didn't, like it's not like they're lying. They did say the bad part, which is like he already doesn't live in the riding. But like the first part, like where he claims he's been a resident, like they don't give him any pushback when it's like, okay, we all can kind of do the math on that. London, UK, we know he was gone quite a while, but there's like they're giving him almost 20 years where it's like, I don't know. It just he's not. I don't know. They're trying to make him more Canadian than I think he's getting. But I guess he was born here and everything. It feels like a little bit like they could push back a little bit more. But like at the end of the day, I guess I will give them credit for bringing up that he doesn't live in the riding. Like they didn't have to bring that up, I guess. And so this one, I would say they're kind of giving him a fair shake.
One factual statement.
But then this one here, this is kind of more just about Pierre. So like the title of this article is "The Wheels Are Coming Off. Senior Conservatives Think the Poilievre Campaign Needs a Reset." So the thing that I found interesting with this one is they don't really have any like factual things to say. Like Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre's campaign desperately needs a reset, according to some veteran Tory campaigners and strategists. So they got some people, I guess. I mean, who else are you going to talk to about the election? Like we're talking to each other and to the world out there, but they really, I feel like they kind of give Pierre a bit of like a hard time with this one. There's a comment down at the bottom here that they got from like a staffer. Yeah, like even right here, like this is their main source. This is what he's saying. to be fair, the Great Orange Menace every single day is not as easy to make it out to be. Like, I can't think of a conservative campaign that's seen the wheels come off so fast and so hard so early. Doug Ford and everyone is running around with their hair on fire. Said a third source of just like very descriptive, and it like sounds like I don't know, like something. It's like a cartoon from the newspaper. Like, not things aren't going like that's not very favorable like at all. And then right here, I have it highlighted. According to the first source, the steady drumbeat of negative news has created a tense situation at the party Ottawa headquarters. There are all these people in their war room that have never worked a campaign before. There's no one senior, no one is secure, said the source. I'm literally getting messages from people in the war room saying, I'm worried I'm going to get fired every day I go in. Like, it's miserable. No one's having any fun. Well, thank God we have that random source to tell us, like, the,
Well, yes, one disgruntled person. That's good enough for me.
like, phone her in, boys. Like, this,
Yeah,
like, person's, like,
that's it.
and for starters, it's an election campaign. You are going to be fired any day now. Like, it's just the nature of an election campaign,
Yeah,
right?
April 28th. By April 28th, for sure, you'll be fired.
So, and like the one thing that kind of gives me pause, like to see through their like kind of like painting a negative picture is like, they're like, well, no one's worked in like this type of campaign before. So it's like clearly the people who have are out working, and they left all these people back at the office to answer the phone, is what I'm seeing here, like the positive spin on it. But I mean, I just kind of thought that was like a little light, like to use just like clearly it's an unfavoring article. You know what I mean? Like, not saying that, oh, I'm like should only write favorable articles, but like it's super unfavorable. And then to like kind of wrap it all up with like this random source from the campaign office, like I could have written that article and with like my random source from the campaign office, like it's just, I don't know, it seems petty almost. Like, not, that doesn't seem like journalism to me. That seems like a petty bitch column. Am I crazy with that? Like, I mean, I know it is what it is, but this is kind of why, I guess, why I don't go to global that often.
I don't know. Why don't you get your face up here instead of we're just looking at a page we can't read?
Oh, sorry. Okay,
We can have a conversation.
I got you, bro. Getting there, we should be good.
Yeah, there we are.
I think that's a little light. It's very light to write. Like, you could have a negative article and write, but like to use that third source like that, it's just so, I don't know. You can clearly tell your bias. Like, I shouldn't be able to read your bias through your article. You can dislike somebody with like reasonable facts is what I'm more or less getting at. Like, you don't have to just make stuff up.
Fair enough.
Um, have you heard anything about the talks? Like, I think I saw something briefly today before pertaining to like Mark Carney speaking, where he was talking about like the tide is changing completely with the U.S. Canada relations. Like, it won't be like it was before. Did you see that?
Well, I did see that, and I think it's just because it's weekend, we haven't got an update on any of that. That's what's happened, transpired next. But apparently, they had a very constructive talk, and everything's going to be much better now. But the relationship has changed. That was his first statement earlier, a few days ago, I believe. And then now the most recent is things are going to be good.
Okay. Well, there's a CBC article I have here. I'm not going to necessarily share it up on the screen, but I'm just going to read a couple excerpts. It's titled Major Canada US Talks Are Coming. Here's what's at play. So they go over all the details that we're kind of all aware with all the back and forth and this and that. Now, the one thing to CBC's credit that I'll respect them on, down in the article, the subheading is "Don't count on details." So like, I kind of really don't usually typically agree with the CBC's slant on things, but like at least here I got to give them credit. Like, they're being honest. Like, I don't expect Pierre or Carney, because like that's a big part of it. The election right now is the Trump trade war. So, but they're like basically letting us know, like, yeah, like nobody's really going to get into the minutia of what they're going to do to Trump, like, which I think no matter who you like in this election, I support that because that's like in the national best interest. Like we don't need to put ourselves into a corner just because we said something at a campaign stop in Regina.
Yeah. You're trying to out pro Canada your political opponent, and then digging Canada a grave, basically.
Yeah, right. So
Yeah,
I actually
not necessary.
I respect that, but the journalist does like it's just this is again like kind of with like people just being like not understanding. I call it reality, but I guess you could say Trump. Like this guy ends the article with this statement here: like, if you are the prime minister, what you have to ask for is a prohibition of future uses of tariffs. Like this is a quote from this guy Miller. He's talking about the article, but like I don't know if you know how negotiating works or if you've ever talked to anybody, but like if I'm Trump and it's like this is your sticking point, I'd be like, yeah, sure, no tariffs, never, no problem, never, done, sign the paper.
No problem. Yeah,
that was
absolutely.
then. This is now. Now
No,
there's
but
tariff.
what
Like he can't.
what's kind of an observation is apparently free trade negotiation was not up for renegotiation until 2026 or something like that. There was supposed to be some renegotiations of the 2026 of the North American Free Trade Agreement.
Okay.
Or the new one, UMAC or whatever it is.
Okay, yeah, the one they did last time.
The one they did last time, yes. So that one that most recently did was up for renegotiations in 2026. And then Trump came in ablazing with his unjustified tariffs. And it was not on the table that there would be no renegotiations of the UM. I can't remember the name. Driving me crazy. But anyways,
yeah,
that's the one. So there will be no renegotiation of that under any circumstance. And then now, all of a sudden, our relationship is going to change irreversibly. It's a new world we live in, according to Carney.
Exactly.
And then now, a day later, you have, or 2 days later, you have, well, we are going to be entering into some very positive and proactive negotiations. And you're like, well, I thought that was off the table.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not.
It's just so outlandish, like, yeah, just to the point where like nothing matters. Like nothing matters until the election day happens because they're just going to keep talking. But I just think it's wild that like some guy, like the expert they're using for the article, his big advice is like this silly trade tactic. Like that's such a crazy thing to ask for. It's kind of similar to like when Zelensky was like, well, I need to guarantee our peace, but but they don't want like peacekeepers there. It's like, well, no, that's like a non-clause. You can't. And for this thing, like when it comes to dealing with Trump, like you can't put in a clause like that. Like that's such a silly clause. Like that's like we want you to guarantee there'll be no more mean days. Like okay, sure. Like there'll be no more mean days. Like just kind of silly. But another CBC article that I was looking at today. Kind of to see what they had to say about the election and conservatives and Carney. It's titled "Conservatives Fear Dysfunctional Campaign and Civil War," claims party sources. So again, it's obviously a CBC article about the conservatives, so it's going to have a strong bias. And they do talk about like how he's Pierre's like kind of sequestered himself, and it's just like him and the top two power people. Nobody can really get to them or whatever. But in the bottom of the article, in the heading, it's the conservatives are just like hung up. So this is what they say here. Weird fixation on minor issues. One conservative suggested the tension not only between Takakis and Byrne, but also between Ontario and federal conservative leaders amounts to a civil war within the conservative movement. Yet another source in the campaign said it has a weird fixation with relatively minor issues, like how the media is reporting Poilievre's rally crowd sizes. The conservative said this should not be a concern for senior leaders like Byrne, but given our other issues they're grappling with. And to me, it's just kind of like, no, the media underreporting Pierre's crowds, that's a thing. That's not cool. Like, it's not a minor issue. That's like, especially in Canada where we don't really have a Fox News. You know what I mean? Like to say the other side. So
totally, you're right. If you're not searching for it independently, it's not going to find you. Yeah. That's for sure.
Maybe the Sun. the Sun newspaper, but I mean, I can't speak for the Edmonton Sun or the other Suns, but I do see the Toronto Sun once in a while, and I know Brian Lilly there and Joe Warmington, and there's some reporters there who do some good conservative journalism, but exactly right, like so that's why it's I kind of read that with just kind of like, of course you guys are just gonna glaze over that, like because it's like, but it's like you're lying. Like, why are you lying? Like, if it's not a big deal, then why are you doing it? Kind of just that simple. Like, and I mean, obviously the leadership of the Conservative Party has a lot to focus on, but I think it's completely fair for them to be concerned about that. Would you disagree with that, or do you see why like that would kind of grind my gears a little bit?
Well, absolutely, of course.
And it should
Yeah, but
grind
I mean,
yours.
it's no mystery. It's no mystery. That's the way it is. The way it's always been.
Yeah,
The way, yeah. So what I mean, the response is what's an interesting response? Like, what should the conservatives do? Like what?
yeah, they're
Like,
raising the concerns, and like they're kind of like, don't worry about that. You're being distracted. Go do other things. And it's just like, no, no, no. We need to address this. Like, it's not, it's just not cool. And especially like in Canada, where the main media is pretty buttoned up, unless you are going to an alternative source on the internet, which not a lot of people over a certain age demographic do. So it's like, and you can kind of see that, and at least I see that in my experience when I'm talking to, like, most people I interact with are over the age of, I would say, 55, 65 in my community. And when I'm at work, I work with a lot younger people, but like the old people I deal with, like they're not getting their stuff from online. The odd one is, but like very rarely are senior citizens and elderly people, getting anything but global or, whatever their local paper is. So that I think it's good for them to focus on that. Now, another news source that I wanted to take a look at today, just to kind of see what was going on, was another. I found this out. Apparently, there's some Chinese interference going on, and Pierre's calling it out. But the only person I saw talking about it was Brian Lilly at the Sun News Network. Um, Now, that's not really a comparison. That's kind of like he's one of the guys who does give the Conservatives a fair shake in the Canadian media space. So I like what he has to say. But he did have another article talking about how Carney didn't let any of the local media in at his campaign rally in Napanee, which, doesn't that just say it all right there? Like how he's like just this out of touch globalist. Like, I don't need the local media. I don't know. I'm not a journalist. So maybe there's like a pecking order, and maybe they didn't buy the blue ticket on Wednesday like the journalists are supposed to. I doubt that though. I just kind of look at that as kind of like your nose is in the air. You'd think if you were running to be prime minister, you'd want all the media, like anybody with their camera. Come on in, like call me crazy. Like, would you not run your election like that, Jay? Like, I would even let the people who hate me in, because maybe you'll like see that you like me after you come in. Like,
I mean, I know like you mentioned before, there's been no talk or low talk of Pierre's rally sizes, and there seems to be less of a turnout for any time Carney seems to do anything. I don't know, but again, I don't know. Again, there is the bias, like you're indicating. I have no way of knowing what's the truth to those things. Like it's.
well, you can see
I
the
mean,
videos, but
there's all
that's about
kinds.
it. You have to make your own
Sure,
judgment, because obviously it's never apples to apples.
no, and also, yeah, like, and how many people? Again, I'm not suggesting are paid actors per se, but you can reach out, and if you get the right groups and you handed out the right amount of small sandwiches, and you could probably get an extra 50 people in a room here and another 100 there, using good old fashioned, they're not true supporter tactics. I imagine those things exist.
No,
I'm
there's
sure
a
there's
there's a
people.
term for exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, exactly. I think that vote used to be, it used to involve like 3 pints of booze, like back in the old day, where it was like, you come on out, we got you covered. Like, yeah. So
Yeah, we got something for you
yeah,
here and something. So
but
I can
yeah,
imagine that type of thing goes on. But there seems to be an energy behind Pierre.
there definitely
And
does. Eh,
and it seems to be just business as usual reporting for for Trudeau, which now has just been carried over to Carney, that they're
Compartmentalized Carney.
just great and they're
Yeah.
all good and everything's fine.
I
And
got global.
if
I don't need
you,
the Napanee news. Like in my riding,
yeah,
I'm trying to win. Which, by the way, fun fact, it's like right next to Pierre's riding.
are you saying,
Their ridings are
uh,
adjacent.
but you've said Napanee and then you've said Nepean.
Is
So
it Nepean?
Nepean
Am
is
I
in
am I
Ottawa.
pronouncing it correctly? It's Nepean.
Nepean is in Ottawa.
That's where Carney's running, and
And
Pierre's
Napanee
in.
is near Kingston.
Thank you. It's Nepean. Yes, Carney's riding of Nepean is right next to Carleton. I did. Oh, so Ottawa. You know Ottawa riding. So you knew that
Yeah,
their
I lived
ridings.
in Ottawa.
Okay.
Yeah.
The last article I actually wanted to share was from a different news source again that I don't normally frequent. The National Post. I don't know if you saw this, but Carney's doctorate in economics from Oxford shows 10 instances of apparent plagiarism, according to academics who've reviewed the material. Now, on a fun note, I'm going to give him credit if he did it in the sense of like he was plagiarizing back in the days before AI. Like you really had to work at your plagiarizing back then. You didn't just get a computer to write it for you.
Even plagiarizing was big work.
But if true, this actually top post here caught my eye, and I think it needs to be seen. The significance of Carney's plagiarism should be emphasized. Carney has no political record to run on, so his entire argument that he should be prime minister rests on his appointment as the head of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. It is doubtful that Carney would have gotten either of these appointments without a PhD. If Carney's PhD was obtained fraudulently, as it seems likely, his entire political argument collapses. Which I read that, and I didn't disagree. It resonated. I was like, that's very well put.
Did you need another reason to dislike him?
No, but it made my my negative emotion toward Mark Harney like a little bit more harmoniously in a vessel, right? Like he framed it a lot nicer, or she, whoever that dog person on Twitter was. That was a nice synopsis of like making the case as to why obviously plagiarism's bad. I mean, I agree with that, but that was well put, I thought. I mean, and I thought I would share that. But so even the National Post is running that, which I always kind of thought, was again, basically I always kind of figured it's the Sun News that is conservative in Canada and the rest are pretty much not. And after all the Trudeau buyouts, they're all kind of leaning a different way too now. So it's just interesting to see. I don't know, like everyone's kind of, I think Carney's kind of getting a fair shake relatively. Like you're not going to see the article in the CBC about his connections to shady figures. I mean, but you might see articles about Brookfield's connections because that seems to be more and more commonplace.
Well, the fact that he moved the head office there, that seems to bother some people when he's talking about being so pro Canada, but then and his offshore holdings and investments. I mean, there's lots to criticize.
Right. One more I learned today too. I'm not sure of the exact details, but it was something along the lines of like he was getting like as the banker, he was like passing regulations to like lower housing values while his hedge fund was like buying houses. And then like either way, it's just like he's got a lot of questions to answer that he definitely probably doesn't want to answer, just the way it looks. And I mean, how long has it been? Like people have kind of just done like a surface level look into this guy, and it seems like every day there's like another skeleton falling out of his closet. So
Well, I guess, I mean, as long as Trump has got Trump is the eye of Sauron looking over from, US of A at us, nobody can focus on any other thing, I guess.
well, I saw a guy
So,
today, and he basically summarized that the liberals are only running on Trump. Like it seems to be like the progressive NDP and Green voter in Canada, and the conservative voter in Canada. They're actually excited to get out and vote, but they're all in alignment about domestic issues. Where like liberal voters right now seem to be just all like, whether that's an NDP voter now voting liberal or whatever, it just seems to be like Trump bad, and we need a level-headed.
I wonder if I wonder if that's enough. Like I wonder, I'm sure someone studied this, and I'm sure there's a political strategist could answer this question, but the question would be is voter turnout against would voter turnout against, I don't want to say Trump because I just mean in general, when you're voting against the other guy, not for your guy.
Yeah, the enthusiasm.
I want
Is it more or less?
Yeah, I wonder if there's, yeah, it would be less, and
I
I
agree.
wonder to what degree less. Like, does that amount to like a 10% decrease in turning up at the polls just because it's not enough energy to go there for the guy you hate as opposed to the guy you love? I don't know.
I think for guys like me and you who look at the numbers, right? When you look at the crimes on the rise in the last decade, when you look at housing affordability, unaffordability, all that stuff, I think when it comes time to go to the polls, I think Pierre wins. I just hope he gets a majority. That's my gut right now. But that's all I
Yeah.
got to say today on the matter for my topics. Um, although I wasn't expecting to end with a definite proclamation like that. But
Wow, it can change. It can change by next week. Yeah,
yeah, what did you want to discuss?
we're not bound to anything.
You wanted to talk about minerals
Um,
tonight, sir.
Critical minerals, and again, part of the hysteria of Trump to the south is, why does he do the things he's doing and why does he say the things he's saying?
So
And
confusing.
since it's madness, we can't figure it out. I'm going to
Nobody
try
knows.
to figure it out.
Well, nobody
And
knows, Jay, so I don't know how you're going to do that.
yeah, no one knows, but I'm going to take a stab at it. And I'm gonna put a map up here, and I want to see if I can still hear you when I put it up.
I see a map.
And I can hear your voice too. Okay, so this is the critical minerals or rare earth minerals. If you look up there, China has almost 40%. These are known reserves, not like what's totally in the ground, but these are known reserves, basically stuff that can be accessed in the very near future. And if you look at that map and you go over, and it's like Canada is like less than 1%. The United States is 1.3%. Greenland's 1.3. Russia's 10%. And you don't need to tell you. You can see the map. Essentially, what I found out with regards to these minerals and mineral deposits and critical minerals, which I'll explain first off, why this is important and why, as we can see, there's been a decoupling of the world globalization. Basically, what you can see at that map is that China is like 100%, not 100%, of course, I'm exaggerating, but it's like completely in control of the critical minerals. And why that's important is because critical minerals, we need them for everything to do with the windmills and cell phones and
Can I ask?
pretty much
Question.
yeah.
Critical
Yes.
minerals, do you mean raw earth minerals, like rare earth minerals, or do you mean like silver, gold, like tungsten, like
No, like rare earth minerals.
Oh,
And
okay.
they're critical, but they're critical to the economy. They're critical to this. They're
Just
critical to
clarify.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, not only does China produce and have control over almost like a good chunk of all the known reserves, it also has become, since the 1980s, it used to be America was who processed the minerals. Now it's China is processing like 80% of the US's minerals. US, you can see by Canada having, even just over in North America, they had like total there was like, what, 6% maybe of what Earth's known reserves. America is one of the worst countries in the world. From finding the site to finally mining the site is like a 29-year process. Canada is a little bit better. It's like 26, 25. I was interesting to see that Australia is knocking it out of the park. They get mines going in as little as 2 years.
That's all they do, though.
And they're a big player in that, and we need to do more of that regardless. Because we have never-ending supply of materials, but we only have available reserves of less than 1% of the available critical minerals or rare earth minerals. Check this out, and we'll watch this for a minute here.
Achieve what the Trump administration wants it to achieve, which is critical minerals independence, and over what period of time?
This executive order is focused primarily on domestic mineral production, which is kind of intention to complement the other efforts. A lot of the focus so far prior to this executive order was focused internationally. We saw discussion of critical minerals cooperation with Greenland, Ukraine, Democratic Republic of Congo. Now we're looking to build our capabilities here at home, and it looks at two different things. One is building mineral production here at home, but the second really core part is how do we build processing capabilities? You know, China only produces between 1 and 10% of the world's nickel, cobalt, and lithium, but they process between 40 and 90%. So what we're doing with this executive order is building our capabilities and aligning it. You know, we saw the Biden administration look at minerals through a green energy lens. But what this does is this national security, this executive order actually asks the Secretary of Defense to prioritize the mining industry as a defense industrial base priority. So we see a stronger alignment there to bring these capabilities at home and line it up to our national security interests.
Reasonable.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, he's putting his money where his mouth is with regards to these. I was looking in 2010, Japan had a bit of a trade scuffle with China, and China cut off 100%, no rare earth minerals, everything you need to run the Japanese economy.
Yeah.
Zero. And obviously Japan had to capitulate immediately. In the interim, though, since now then, they used to get 100% from China. In 2025, Japan will drop below 50%. They've outsourced every place else.
So we know where
So there's
Vietnam
becoming
got that 19% from.
I told them that I want the equivalent, like $500 billion worth of rare earth, and they've essentially agreed to do that. So at least we don't feel stupid.
Ukraine hasn't essentially agreed to do that, but it's claimed Donald Trump wants 50% of Ukraine's mineral resources in return for past military aid and future security guarantees. He claims, without evidence, the US has already spent $350 billion. Available data suggests the figure is actually $120 billion. Last year, President Zelensky did say foreign firms may get access to some of Ukraine's natural resources after the war. This month, he said the Americans help the most, and therefore the Americans should earn the most. But he has a limit.
You will write down some guarantees, and we will write a memorandum with some percentages. I was told only 50%. I said, okay, no.
Susan Glasser of The New Yorker calls the idea a straight-out extortion blackmail demand. To Trump, it's simply what is owed. And the
Trump is just simply what he's owed. But so he's immediately in office, he signs a executive order to make critical mineral refinement in the United States like a top priority.
A military
Right. And then
strategic interest. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And then in the same breath, he is also over there sticking his nose like way out, trying to get the critical minerals under control from the Ukraine. I found out, and you remember if you saw from our chart, there's almost no percentage in Europe of critical mineral. They didn't even bother putting it in as a percentage. The big play they had a big mine in Greenland that Europe was all excited about. And about a year ago, Europe did a big deal with Greenland to try to have more of these rare earth minerals, all these critical minerals in place. But they immediately, some legislation was put in place and they had to shut it down before it even started, more or less. So like, even though Greenland has even the decent reserves, it's almost impossible when we're working with the European Union to extract them because of these different rules.
Good luck.
So yeah, so you've got him, he's an executive order on the critical minerals for to process them in the United States. Then he wants Ukraine's critical minerals. And then we can check this out. This is just the other day with
President Trump
JD Vance as well. But
it takes to take control of Greenland. Speaking to an NBC reporter, Trump said that includes military force, but it probably won't be needed. This comes one day after Vice President Vance visited a U.S. military base in Greenland. Speaking to troops, he said the island is important for defense and economic reasons. The trip has sparked international backlash. The foreign minister of Denmark, which owns Greenland, released this video on social media.
And of course, we are open to criticism. But let me be completely honest. We do not appreciate the tone in which it's being delivered. This is not how you speak to your close allies. And I still consider Denmark and the United States to be close allies.
The foreign minister went on to say he's open to expanding the U.S. military presence in Greenland and that Denmark is already investing more in Arctic security.
Yeah, he seems pretty intent on some critical minerals. So again, what does this all have to do with any? Why does it matter? For instance, I learned that Canada, we have one of the largest tungsten. It's a known mine. It's part of the reserve. The only reason we even were to develop it was because the American military ponied up $35 million to start the process or start the project. Tungsten's important because without it, you can't, you got to pierce through. It's like piercing through armor, piercing through, there's all kinds of military applications for tungsten. And China, with 90% of it, refinement capacity, and it's cornering the market on 60-70% of like source materials. They just recently made a list of critical minerals that they'll no longer supply to the United States, and tungsten was one of those, and there are a few others. Also, when the United States is when they're ramping up the tariffs and they're trying to put tariffs on China ultimately has the ACE card, because you can say, oh, I'll put 10% tariff, I'll put 50% tariff. Oh, I'll just stop supplying you with 80% of what you need for your economy to function. So China ultimately, unless America extricates itself from their Chinese dependency, it is a matter of national defensive importance. It is that. So I'm saying that. How does that relate to us here in Canada? Well, it relates to us here in Canada as an indication of inside his mind. He needs the source of critical minerals. We already have, and one of the things that Canada is good for, we are known for being the metallurgists, and we have refineries and smelters and all over the country. So we're in good shape if we could just get the bureaucratic red tape out of the way. And I mean, I've got one more clip here for you that
Donald Trump's frequent comments about Canada becoming the 51st state are not meant in jest.
Fox News then asked Trump about Trudeau's comments directly.
The Prime Minister said this weekend to a group of Canadian businessmen, he was a private meeting, he said that your wish for Canada to be the 51st state is a, quote, real thing. Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it is. I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state.
Which all raises the question, if Trump really does want to absorb Canada, why? Well, some Canadian politicians, including Justin Trudeau, say much of what Trump may want from Canada is underground.
He believes the president is motivated by his desire to tap into this country's natural resources and critical minerals.
He wants our natural resources, our critical minerals.
Lithium, like graphite, like rare earth. We have the chance to have all these minerals, and I think Mr. Trump would like to get them.
When they talk about, a minerals deal with Ukraine, or they talk about whatever it is they want to do with Greenland, or these sort of allusions towards Canada annexation, we have seen a general through line, which is critical minerals.
So I don't know. I never realized we were so dependent, or not us, I guess, but the Western world, I suppose, is in us. We're so dependent on China in that regard that it's almost comical. Canada, we're a major producer in some things like nickel, sending it to the United States, and Saskatchewan has like 30% of the world's supply of potash for fertilizer and what. So we have some stuff going on, but when you look at those known reserve charts, and 26 years average time from discovery to mining starting, even if Trump, obviously Trump can't solve the mining problem in his 4 years, but it's visionary to be exerting so much pressure on making a whole new way of sourcing those materials. So.
And you said a phrase earlier though, which was dependency upon China, which there's no question the Western world is dependent upon China for trade. But that's also to say, like, it's not I don't think anybody who even, like, loves stuff from there would agree that it's not a bad idea to, like, wean yourself off of it. Like, it's not like, you hear all the time, like, you know what I mean? Like, how many things do you buy that are, say, like, made in China on it that you're, like, throwing out every 6 months or a year and buying another one because it's so cheap? Like, it's not like people wouldn't want another source. Like, if you would, I think people would be open to reverting consumer styles if the quality was there. And it's certainly not there with the Chinese products. So it'll be a rough 2 or 3 years where you're retooling, Winnipeg and retooling Duluth. But I'd be okay with buying like a $30 t-shirt if the quality was all right and it said made in Canada, and and I just know I have five.
But I mean, the issue that issue here is not the price of goods; it's Canadian
manufacturing.
Well, no, Canadian is we're in the shadow of the bully. So if the bully wants our stuff, and now I've indicated, I think, that his mindset is on, like, I need these things for the security and safety of America, then that's something to pay attention to, is all I'm saying.
Well, and like we say, like, a lot of times commentators don't seem to know what he's talking about, but right there, you just saw Jagmeet, Francois Legault, like, all of them saying exactly that. Like, Trump wants our minerals. And okay, so they're not completely out of touch. They see that, which seems to be a big part of his agenda.
Yeah. Well, and I mean,
I just think the reason I brought up the China thing is because you were saying, like, he only has 4 years, which is right. So to do that big Titanic type shift turning, it's obviously not going to be wrapped up with a bow on it in 4 years, right? To do this type of huge economic shift and whatnot. But I'm saying if it's like snowball effect, it's slow and steady. Amazon was just a guy in a room, and then people bought books.
Absolutely. Well, we don't even have to hypothesize. We have an exact situation as Japan, right. 2010, 100%. In 2025, so in 15 years, they have sourced. Now they'll be getting they'll go over 50%. They'll be sourcing from not China. So, I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
15 years.
So you can move markets with the right incentives.
Absolutely.
So, and I think Trump will put those in place. That'll be the key. So.
Yeah. Well, where does that leave us? Again, that leaves us, we better get on board, because I don't think there's any amount of, I mean, it's funny, the guy from Denmark there, the politician, when he was like, his main argument is that he didn't like he didn't like Donald's tone. Yeah.
That's everybody's main argument against Trump, though.
Yeah, that's it. It's not like what he wants makes sense, or it's
rational and logical. We can't afford it. It's right beside you. Da 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 da. Yeah, but he was. But to his credit, like, as much as he was a little tone policey, he was right. Like, that's not how allies talk to each other. But it's also one of those issues where it's like, there's no right way to say it. So Trump's just coming right out. This is it.
Yeah, but I also think that, like, that's his style, in the sense that it's
because maybe he'll just get mineral deals out of it and another military base.
Yeah, I think that's just how he gets you to pay attention, because I think the Europeans are, and the past bureaucratic systems, they're so slow to react, and things go to committee, and I think all those other levels of government are so used to dealing with that, and they kind of just can know that they can slough stuff off, and it will deal with it later, and we'll have it. If a normal politician, not a Trump, a Biden, or whoever,
I'm going to present a bill.
We're just saying, I want to, hey, Greenland, I want to, maybe just start some negotiation, and they'll be like, yes, of course.
Start a task force to just consider a negotiation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Trump comes out and says, I'm going to take Greenland from you. And then they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then all of a sudden it's like top priority to be dealt with. So that's interesting. That's
true.
That's what he does. So if you're offended by that, it makes you weaker. Like these crybaby Canadians and this guy, like it makes you weak in comparison when you're like, oh, I don't.
The bureaucratic managers who are like, that's just not how it's done. Like, yeah, but
yeah, I guess, yeah.
Well, I think,
but he got their attention.
I mean, okay, well, let's have this quick conversation. If before Trump's out of office and America has Greenland, let's say this time next year, Greenland's like the papers being signed, they're already using American dollars, say this time next year, the likelihood of annexation for Canada, I think, goes up like, tenfold. It's like, oh, he's actually serious. Like, uh-oh.
Well, I mean, I know we've touched on the importance of the Arctic before, but I mean, even that is going to be a huge issue as well. Like the critical minerals is monstrous, but that's huge too.
On the news today, while I was searching at the other side, there was articles about the Canadian Armed Forces preparing and training in the Arctic, which again, I don't look too much at that, but I hadn't heard that in years. Like I know for years it was always bothered me that we didn't care about the Arctic as much, because anytime you saw anything to do with how the Russians handle it, it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, where it was like they treat it like it's another Quebec, whereas we kind of treat it like it's like the basement and Christmas decorations. Like we don't really like care about it that much. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, I think we try to. I mean, they've tried to build that military base, and it keeps getting pushed back and back and back. And up in Baffin Island, it was supposed to open like 10 years ago and be fully functional, and now it may be this year or next year. Like we're trying to show the rest of the world that we have some sort of
where we're just waiting for the Chinese ships
desire
we opened it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah, I guess no
for the big party.
So that's one of the reasons that Trump, again, he has a great example. He makes a valid point. Like we don't take our northern
serious.
Yeah, we don't take the protection of it seriously. So again, I think we've all grown up in a time where we can't imagine that countries that aren't far away in like Africa can have like territory seized from them by a bigger, stronger, opponent. That's something that happens in other places in the world, not here, not in the West, no. But that could change.
Well, out of all the bullies, I don't think you could have asked for a better one. So that's my 2 cents.
I'm not even arguing that. I'm saying, like, I mean, if we are not the biggest guy in the room, so we need to have strategic alliances.
Let's be friends with the biggest
guy. I would rather be friends with America than China, I suppose.
Bingo.
Or
even England.
And that seems to be
maybe just me. I think a lot of Canadians might disagree with me on that, because of technically we're a colony still, or whatever, Commonwealth.
Yeah, whatever.
The Governor General runs everything, is all I'm saying. We're still, the king's still here.
We're beyond that. We're beyond that for sure. Well, that's all I wanted to say. Was I thought looking into the critical minerals was an interesting snapshot, trying to look into that beautiful mind of Donald Trump's, beautiful chaotic mind of Donald Trump's, to give us some indication of what might be happening or what might be in our future. But hey, we'll see what happens. Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
Nice. Bye, everybody. Wow!